My name is Wendy Lynne. I'm here both as a citizen of Pennsylvania at 1811 Main Street, Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania, Columbia County, 17815. So I drove quite a ways to be at this hearing tonight. I'm also on the executive board of the Shale Justice Coalition, who supports not merely a moratorium, but a clear-headed thinking ban on all hydraulic fracturing, mountaintop removal, unconventional oil extraction, and tar sands. I'd like to begin by reiterating that the public comment period must be expanded to 120 days minimum, with more hearings in frac-affected counties, and indeed, I reiterate, in all counties. This expansion is crucial, not only to ensuring that affected people and communities get to be heard, but because being heard is a bulwark of a democracy. However much this state and its agencies routinely ignore it, just as they ignore the science relevant to the hazards posed by fracking and its associated infrastructure. As opposed to commenting on each of the stipulated changes proposed for Chapter 78, I'd like to address the very idea that hydraulic fracturing from wellhead to compressor to pipeline to export depot to LNG transport tanker can be regulated sufficiently to guarantee the ecological integrity, species diversity, human health, property value, or the constitutional right to clean air and water. While perhaps no regulation can offer guarantee against accident, the now well-documented hazards posed by fracking have clearly been shown to be substantial, whether or not accidents occur. Hence, it is equally clear that no regulation can be adequate to make this process of industrialized extraction safe. We know that the intent of the industry is not to make fracking safe, but to make it as inexpensive, expeditious, and profitable as possible. A few days ago, the hearing on Senate Bill 411, legislation that would render immune to liability the use of acid mine drainage as frack water, SB 1047 that would gut and politicize the process by which species are listed as endangered, or SB 259 that would allow old leases to be treated as newly negotiated, even if the leaseholder declines to permit fracking on her property or didn't know there was an old lease. All of these, each of these, make plain that regulation in Pennsylvania is written by and crafted for the oil and gas industry.
That's right.
Because fracking is inherently unsafe, the proposed changes to Chapter 78 are inconsistent with Article 1, Section 27 of the Pennsylvania Constitution. Given, moreover, the clear legislative pattern, we must assume that the intent of these changes is consistent with SB 411, 1047, and 259. In other words, to act to facilitate the interests of oil and gas. What the proposed changes really encapsulate, therefore, are the negotiated terms of our surrender to these industries. We at Shale Justice have no interest in acceding to this forfeiture of our autonomy as citizens or our recently reaffirmed right to clean air and water. We would like to publicly thank Chief Justice Castile for his role in overturning significant parts of Act 13 as unconstitutional. To accede to any of these proposed changes runs directly contrary to that 4-2 Supreme Court decision. Here's why. To wrestle over the details of changes to Chapter 78 presumes that fracking will continue. Many are resigned to this grim possibility. Otherwise, we'd not be haggling over who is responsible for pre-drill water testing, the use of open pits for frack wastewater, the definition of fresh water, the disposal of brine, or the status of orphaned wells. Make no mistake, the industry will cry foul that such regulatory changes will cost them too much money, that they are somehow
the injured parties. But the facts are that these proposed changes are nothing but crumbs offered to appease us, to convince us that the agencies charged with protecting our air and water actually act to do so when they do not.
Thank you, Wendy. We'll read the rest of the written comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
My last sentence, though, that I'd just like to conclude with. Many things are negotiable. Some things aren't. Just as there could be no compromise on apartheid or slavery, there can be none when the stakes are climate change.
Thank you, Wendy.
My yard is a special place.
Next, we
So
have
is yours.
John Trello.